Today on TimesCast,
millions worldwide answered in real time. You are not alone, and we are with you. Then the government pulled the plug.
As U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton puts a new focus on Internet freedom Tuesday, we look at how authoritarian governments have limited Internet access in response to protests in the Middle East. In Bahrain, the government shuts down Bamboozer, a live cell phone video service that gained popularity in Egypt in recent weeks. And Iran's government imposes restrictions on journalists in the country, making the Internet essential to reporting on protests there.
I'm James Glanz. I'm a reporter at the New York Times, and I've been working on a story with my colleague John Markov on the shutdown of the Internet in Egypt. It happened over a course of 5 days during the height of the protests. And what we're finding is that this is the first time we've seen a government throw what might be called a nuclear switch and shut down the Internet entirely because it was unhappy with what the protesters were putting out there and afraid of what the consequences might be. The Internet is famous for having lots of interconnections, so if you shut down one part, there's always a way to route around it. That's the way the Internet was designed. But it turns out that when it comes to individual countries, it doesn't quite work that way. There are very few ways in and out of especially authoritarian regimes when it comes to the Internet because they designed it that way. So the government Internet company, the government network, it's called Telecom Egypt, controls the portals to the outside world. There are lots of commercial providers inside. They've all got to use Telecom Egypt's portals. So what Egypt did, what the Egyptian government did, is it went to those international portals, just a few, a handful, and it shut them down. So the question is, does this capability exist in other countries? We don't know, but we see during the protests in Bahrain and Iran especially, activists are telling us that by their measures, the Internet is being severely slowed in those countries, so far not stopped. The concern is that given the role that social media have played in organizing the protests in these various countries, that governments may resort again to this kill switch or find new ways to restrict the flow of information on the Internet.
I'm Robert Mackey. I write the lead blog for the New York Times website. One of the things that we've been seeing as we followed protests across North Africa and the Middle East in recent weeks is the use of a new site to stream live video clips from cell phones called Bamboozer. Unlike YouTube, which is a way of uploading recorded clips, Bamboozer actually lets people take out their phones, connect to the web, and stream live video of what's happening right at that moment. The clips are also archived and recorded, so you can see them on the site later on. The site was filtered or blocked in Egypt during the protests there, and today what we've seen as protests are going on for a second straight day in Bahrain is that people's channels within Bahrain are being blocked. On Tuesday there was a large funeral procession for a protester who was killed on Monday, and two different bloggers used their accounts on Bamboozer to post images of that as it was happening. Apparently this is something that might have upset the authorities in Bahrain because the Bamboozer accounts of those users inside Bahrain are now blocked. One of the things that's interesting about the Bamboozer footage of the procession is that it gives you an idea, like any video would, of how large the procession was. There seem to be thousands of protesters. But it also is geolocated from the person's phone. So as they're streaming the video, you can see on a Google map posted right next to the video that actually shows you where someone is and exactly when they've posted something is invaluable to citizen journalism being used by the mainstream media.
And United Nations reporter Neil McFarquhar is covering Iran's protests from New York as the Iranian government restricts reporters inside the country.
It's always a bit of a challenge. There are times like this when you just cannot go to Iran to report there. They won't give you visas and they ban the people inside from reporting. So you have to rely on a variety of sources. There's a group of sympathizers who put together a Facebook page called 25 Bahman, which is Monday's date on the Iranian calendar, and that's sort of collating all the video clips and the messages, Twitter feeds, etc. that are coming out. It's always a test to see what is new and what is authentic. One of the ways we could measure for Monday was that some of the slogans seemed tied to events in Egypt and Tunisia. People were chanting Mubarak Ben Ali, next is Sayyid Ali. meaning the next to go should be the supreme leader in Iran, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. We're always trying to find new ways to, contact people inside Iran. For a while we tried via Skype, and that didn't work so well. Last week I actually tried a new video link that I hadn't tried before, which is called OVO, and I managed to get through to Mehdi Karoubi, one of the opposition leaders who's been sort of living under house arrest.
He says that if the government doesn't give permission for the demonstrations to go through, it's in direct contradiction to all of their past positions and statements and everything that they've said.
Since that interview, the government ramped up his isolation. He's been totally put under house arrest, cut out from the outside world. All telecommunications has been cut. His sons have not been allowed to visit. And today there were calls in the Iranian parliament for him to be tried and executed. I haven't been able to get in touch with him again. Iran's attempts to block any information fail. News does get out, but it's always a question of trying to verify it and making sure that, it's authentic and new.
Join us again tomorrow for TimesCast.